Hey guys, in today's video, I'm sharing part of my stash and going over what I'll be knitting for the rest of winter 2023. Hey guys, welcome back to the String Things channel. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Mel. I live in Vancouver, Canada. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I live here with my husband, my 2-year-old daughter Darcy, and our cat Tiberius. Today I thought it'd be fun to share a bit of my stash and discuss some upcoming projects which I plan to do for the remainder of winter 2023, and also if I put it out there in the world, now I can be held accountable for, well, completing my goal or not. Hopefully I do. So I discussed in my last podcast episode how some of my overall knitting goals were knitting from stash, trying to use patterns from books or magazines that I already own, and also evaluating my wardrobe and actually determining what are those gaps in my wardrobe and can knitting help fill those gaps. So I don't believe knitting is going to fill all of those gaps, and there are definitely types of garments that I won't be knitting in the near future because, well, one, I'm just not interested in knitting them, and two, I don't need them in my wardrobe. So some of those items are socks, dresses, skirts, and shorts. I'm perfectly happy with my store-bought socks. I keep my store-bought socks for years. I rarely get holes in them, and when they do finally get holes, I've had them for years and years. Dresses, I actually plan to do some sewing this spring and summer, and I'm going to be sewing with some like cotton fabrics. So sewing is going to be how I add dresses to my wardrobe. Not knitting, not interested in knitting up an entire dress as well. Also with kind of warm weather or summer garments, the more summer friendly fibers aren't something that I'm very keen and enjoy the overall knitting experience. So cotton, linen, silk, not really my go-to, and also the weight of yarn that would be required for the kind of knitwear. Generally, you're looking at fingering or even lace weight, and I don't want to knit with teeny tiny needles for an entire garment. So what does that leave? That leaves, like in terms of seasons, I'm looking at fall, winter, and spring to build up my wardrobe. And so in particular, I'm thinking sweaters, cardigans, maybe a hat, and that's about it. Not looking to add any more accessories. I don't really use multiple scarves. I barely actually wear a scarf. And in terms of a toque, I switch between two at the moment, so can maybe add another one in terms of adding a color. So I'm going to focus on sweaters and cardigans. And I want to focus on those because I do have a lack of layering options in my wardrobe. So in particular, the winter to spring transition where it's definitely too warm to wear a winter jacket, but it's still too chilly to wear my kind of spring jackets. So it's nice to be able to add a layer, and I would love to be able to add, a cardigan or two to fill those gaps. Now, I don't want to knit just kind of any cardigan. I want something that's going to be versatile, mix and match different spring jackets, but also different outfits as well. So I want to be conscious of my color choice in that respect. So let's get into the stash. The first project I want to discuss is something I mentioned in my last podcast episode, and that is the Eclair Pullover. I originally saw this one on the Wool Needles Hands, that's Taylor podcast, and I immediately was drawn to this pattern because of the large side slits. So the body is actually open on the sides. And why I liked that is because I could layer that over any kind of, whether it's a fitted garment or an oversized button-down shirt, for example, which is what I'm trying to pair this sweater with. It will fit over any of those, because my problem with in the past of trying to pair a sweater with a button-down shirt is often my sweater would be too tight, so I'd get some weird kind of bunching at the waist, or my sleeves just wouldn't fit under the sweater very nicely, or maybe it was like too short, so too much of the button-up was showing, or too long, so none of the, shirt tails weren't showing at all. So I think this is a great option for that, because it's going to fit over any size garment, and I think it's going to make it really comfortable and cozy to wear. So for this particular garment, I've chosen a brown color. So I did buy this yarn before choosing to go with the Eclair Pullover pattern, but I knew that when I was purchasing this yarn that I wanted to do some sort of raglan top-down construction, which is what the Eclair Pullover is. So I purchased from the Black Friday sale directly from Holst Garn a cone of their Supersoft yarn, and this is the color Conquer. It's a pretty rich dark brown, and I will be pairing it with some drops kid silk. So my initial thoughts of this pairing, however, is that I thought these two were too similar, and sometimes I like a little bit of that kind of heathering coloring that happens when you have a different colored mohair strand and your base yarn strand. But looking closer at this, and I don't know if this is indicative of all the kid silk colorways, but so this brown one in particular, you can see the silk core, that strand, is quite yellow or golden. It's, well, not the same color as the actual mohair. So that might annoy some people. In my case, I think I might add some nice dimension to the garment, so it doesn't look like a completely solid dark brown sweater. But had this been something else, like maybe like an off-white or something, I don't know, like what color is the silk strand in all of the different colorways that they offer, I don't know. If I was making, a light green sweater and I had something that's kind of coming in more yellow, that might annoy me. So let me know in the comments if you guys have experience with multiple colors from drops in their kid silk. And yeah, is this just the batch that I got? I recently watched Alexandra of Alexandra's Garn on YouTube, and she was mentioning how this irks her about drops in particular having a different colored or a contrasting silk strand. So maybe it's just the way it is. Hey guys, I'm just popping in here real quick because I forgot to show some other mohair alpaca yarns. Just to show you, the silk strand is not always a contrasting color like the dark brown one I have here from Drops. So we are knitters. I love the Touch Me Mohair, guys. It is actually more alpaca than mohair, but you know what? I've said it before, it shouldn't be called Touch Me Mohair, but I like this product. I have three colors from them, and all the silk strands are the same color as the mohair and alpaca. So let's just use the black one because that makes it more obvious. But here, there's the black hole. Black never shows up well on camera. But let me pull out the strand here. You can see here, it is most definitely black. And that's the case for the color beige. The silk strand is beige. The color natural, which is kind of just white, the strand is white. And even in, so this is my leftover Suri from my Chantilly cardigan project. This is hand-dyed Suri from Bramble Ridge, hand-dyed yarns. And the silk core is indeed the sage green, like the Suri fluff. So, as Alexandra said, can someone explain to me why, even a hand dyer, wear knitters, has silk strands that match their fluffy fibers and Drops does not? Are there other yarn companies out there that have kind of a contrasting silk strand? Let me know. That's something I would like to know before I purchase something, because I do a lot of online purchasing. Okay, that's it. Bye. So I decided to buy the Holst Garn Supersoft yarn because I've just, been very curious about trying it out. And I've always just kind of wanted a coat of yarn. So I'm also a little bit concerned about my overall experience with it, as Rebecca from the Prairie Bear said that she didn't like knitting with Supersoft. However, Emily of High Fiber Knits didn't really have anything negative to say about it, and she actually said that it blooms quite nicely after a good washing. And I also wanted to choose this yarn because I'm really loving the combination of working with fingering and a lace strand of, say, mohair or alpaca, because it lets me use a couple of my favorite needle sizes, which is 3.5 millimeters and 4 millimeters. So this is something I hope to cast on hopefully next week, and maybe if I'm feeling very ambitious or I've got the time, finish early March. So I've got 2 more projects to share after this, and it would be nice to finish all 3 by April, but considering it's, today's actually Valentine's Day, happy Valentine's Day, and so that doesn't leave a lot of time to knit up 3 garments, so we'll see. In terms of why I really wanted a brown sweater, and in particular a dark brown sweater, I thought it was a nice neutral color that's going to work all the way from fall to early spring, and I don't have any kind of other brown tops, so this would be a nice kind of darker contrast to coordinate with those tops that I want to layer with. And it's also going to go with all the pants that I wear, which 90%, maybe even 99% of the time actually, I'm always in blue denim. Alright, so that Eclair Pullover is hopefully filling the gap of having an easy, everyday, wearable sweater, cozy at home, but also nice enough to wear out, kind of dress up, dress down, and have a layering option for the transition periods. So my next project that I want to share is something to fill the gap for more early spring, or even an instance such as today. So it is a beautiful sunny winter day in Vancouver today. We have south-facing windows here, so our apartment is actually so warm that I'm actually just in a t-shirt. But there are times where it's like a little bit cooler, so it's not quite warm enough for me to wear like another full knit sweater. So then I'll wear some sort of slightly, kind of t-shirt material long sleeve shirt. It would be nice to actually add at least one knitwear type top for that kind of slightly chilly day when I'm just hanging out inside, just to have something that also again can be dressed up, dressed down, wear out, or just still be comfortable at home hanging out with Darcy, which is what I'm doing most of the time anyways. So the next project is something I mentioned last year, and I actually swatched for this last year. So this is something that's been sitting in my queue for quite some time, and this is the year that I need to finally knit this up. Otherwise, I feel like it's never going to get done or even started. So here is my swatch. This is a swatch for a Friday tee, which is a pattern from Petite Knit. and this is Cascade fingering yarn. So this is a broken rib stitch, and here's the yarn that I'll be using. I seem to have lost my contrast color somewhere. Where did it go? I actually don't know where it went. Am I totally blind? Oh my gosh. I am totally blind. It is camouflaged sitting on top of some other yarn that I'll be showing you, but it's right here. So the contrast color is already caked up because only one was required. So, but the Cascade yarn comes in hanks, and so the main color I'm using is called Buff, and the contrast color is called Doe Skin Heather, I believe. I don't have the tag with me. I don't know where it is, somewhere. So they are pretty similar looking, but as you can see, once it's swatched up, they do have a nice contrast, but it's a neutral contrast. And again, I'm doing kind of a beige brown because these are kind of nice neutrals that I don't have in my wardrobe right now. I'm sort of trying to update my wardrobe, trying to make it more cohesive. Again, I want more mix and match versatility with my clothing. So the original sample that Petite Knit has is kind of you know, similar to the base yarn color that I chose, and then it's kind of like a pinkish, well, not pink. What is the color called? I can't remember, but it's like a dusty red would be my best description that I can think of at this moment. So the reason why I wanted to try to make this garment is, yes, it is fingering weight yarn, and I know I said that I'm not really interested in fingering weight yarn, but I mean alone anyways. But with this one in a broken rib stitch pattern, I thought it would be a more interesting and enjoyable experience rather than trying to knit just straight up fingering weight in stockinette, for example. And it's also knit in the round. So, you know, I'm trying to make this, you know, as successful for me as I can. So the idea with this garment is that it's for kind of a transition time, slightly chilly, where I need a little bit of warmth, not too much, and maybe still wear this under my spring jacket, I don't know. But looking for something that's semi-fitted. So I am actually trying to knit less oversized items this year as well. And why choose this yarn over the yarn suggested in the pattern? So the yarn in the pattern is Sunday yarn from Sadness Garn. I've used Sunday yarn. I'm actually using it right now in a whip, and it's really nice merino, and it's nice and smooth. However, it's a little bit pricey. Not that it's unaffordable, but I wanted to find an alternative. And I've always wanted to use Cascade yarn, so I thought, why not? These Cascade hanks go for $7 a piece, which is pretty nice considering I bought 1, 2, 3, 4. I have a total of 5, so it's $35 in material cost for this garment. For my size, I'm making the smallest size. Yeah, so, but so initial thoughts before I even start this project, and looking at my swatch and looking at this yarn in comparison to Sunday yarn, is that Cascade fingering is not as tightly spun as Sunday, so it doesn't have as smooth of a look in comparison. So I almost think it makes my broken rib look a bit sloppy in a way. It's like it makes it look like the tension is uneven. And this is a blocked swatch as well. So once this is all in a complete garment, is that something that's going to bother me? Am I gonna regret not buying Sunday yarn? I don't know, we'll see. Also, it's not as soft as Sunday yarn. It's still soft, but I have quite sensitive skin. I don't have any sort of fiber allergy, but in terms of texture, I can find that irritating. And so that is a concern with the broken rib stitch. Am I going to find this comfortable enough to wear without sort of a camisole or undershirt underneath? And my next thing with that is determining what length to knit. Do I want a slightly cropped fit? What pants am I going to wear this with? So I normally wear kind of high-waisted jeans. So do I want to knit the length for high-waisted jeans? Do I want to knit so it, you know, can tuck in a bit, but then it's semi-fitted? I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about my clothing and how I want to make them, and sometimes it feels like I overthink it. But you know, it's kind of the beauty and the curse of knitting your own garments is that yes, you get to knit exactly to, you know, whatever dimensions and length and size, etc. But then also you get to knit to whatever size you want. So you want to make it, you know, as perfect as possible. So that is kind of what I'm, you know, going through with the Friday tee. All right, so we got the Eclair Pullover, we got the Friday tee. So first one's the layering option, second one is the when I'm not layering but I still need a little bit of warmth. So third option kind of goes with the layering, but I mentioned how I'm looking to add at least, you know, 1 or 2 cardigans to my wardrobe. But this is also one of those things where I was kind of driven by the yarn and not necessarily the need to fill a gap in my wardrobe. So I'm kind of went backwards in my process, but for good reason, because this yarn is beautiful, guys. A couple weeks ago, I actually went to a yarn shop in person. I went to Urban Yarns, which is over on West 10th, the west side of Vancouver, and you can shop online as well. But I had a free day. My sister was babysitting Darcy for kind of the morning and afternoon, so I thought I'm gonna actually go to this store in person. Also because I just happened to check the night before and this yarn was finally back in stock, and I definitely wanted to head out there and snatch it up because I didn't want to miss buying this yarn again. I've wanted this yarn since I saw Tiffany of Typical Bliss share this when she first purchased this yarn. So even before I saw what she made out of it, I just knew I needed to get my hands on that yarn. It is a little bit on the pricier side, so for budget reasons, I kind of stepped away from the idea for a bit. But I felt like I was kicking myself for a bit because then I couldn't find it again. And anyways, I got it. I bought Noro Madara yarn in color 1 Sake. It is a beautiful kind of warm gray base. I think it's coming out more warm on camera than it actually is in person. It's slightly cooler in person. And it is labeled as a single ply, but you can see there's a lot of, it almost looks marled. And there's lots of different colors happening. So why did I really want this yarn? Especially after seeing the finished item of Tiffany's. She made a cardigan number 8, I think it's number 8, with hers. Seeing how it's, you know, it's colorful and neutral at the same time. And the fact that it has different colors going through it means, I think, it can match different outfits. So, you know, whether I'm wearing a black top, white, well, obviously black and white go with a lot of things. Great example, Mel. if I'm wearing blue or green or even, yellow, that's gonna, get picked up from Cardigan and coordinate that way. So I bought 6 hanks of this yarn, but I don't have really the intention to knit a cardigan number 8 like Tiffany. That was a suggestion on Instagram, on my post. I think that was last week. Someone did comment and suggest cardigan number 8, which is a beautiful cardigan. It looks super cozy. I love the fact that it has pockets. However, with the drop shoulder construction, I don't really want to do that kind of construction. And the reason why I don't want to do drop shoulder construction is because I want to avoid the bulk in the underarm area, because there's a balance between, how wide you make that drop shoulder and like how much ease around your chest. And I don't actually want too much ease, and I don't think drop shoulder construction looks great on me when there's not like enough ease on there. That's an issue I ran into when I was making my Chantilly cardigan, and a big reason why I ended up frogging and re-knitting it in a larger size. So to make a cleaner look, not that drop shoulder can't look clean, I want to do most likely, I'm not 100% picking it yet, but champagne cardigan. That what seems to, vibe with what I want to create, how I want this yarn to look and be added into my wardrobe. I think a champagne cardigan works. I am considering adding pockets, but I don't know if I want to mess with how nice and clean that cardigan looks. I'm also playing around with the idea of lengthening it, so potentially quite a bit past my hip, which means I need all the yardage for lengthening over, making pockets. And I'm still debating whether to hold the Noro with a lace strand. So this is already an expensive project in terms of material cost. With 6 of these are $30 each. So you're looking at $180 worth of yarn here. And so to add a strand of Suri or mohair, that's going to add at least, well, actually, what's the cost of? That's 30 for 50 grams. It could be adding another like $70, $80, depending on what you actually go with. So I just so happen to have something that might be suitable to pair with the Noro, and it's something that I bought last year and completely forgot that I bought it. And it's was in the back of my little yarn locker, and so it was kind of like really happy that I found it, but also, wow, I need to reconsider how I'm organizing my yarn. So I'm actually starting to populate the stash section in my Ravelry account so I can better keep track of the yarn I have. So the yarn I found in the back of my little locker is Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk. And this, I don't know if you're familiar with how Drops categorizes the weight of the yarn. So it's by letter. So yarn group A, for example, would be your lace weight strands, like Drops Kid Silk is yarn group A. This they have put in yarn group C, although I believe the silk strand is quite comparable to the silk strand in the Kids Silk yarn. Oh, sorry. Try to do this without totally messing. Oh, there we go. Let's see if I can show you. So I've got the color Almond for Kids Silk, and there's the gray. You know what? The gray one looks way thicker, and that's because the alpaca, well, the brushed alpaca, is so much fluffier than dropped kid silk. So there it is there. Let's see if I can get this to focus. Yeah, so you can see how much there is a difference. So how much that's going to affect my gauge, I don't know. But I also don't want to buy more alpaca or mohair for this project because I have zero room in my yarn locker, and I said I was going to buy less yarn, work through my stash. So if I'm going to pair it something, it's going to be this. I'm going to have to make whatever gauge I get kind of work for the cardigan. And I like the idea of this because it's kind of like a warm, pretty neutral gray. So I don't think it's gonna take away from the lovely colors that the Noro yarn has. And also this yarn has a little bit of like inconsistent size of the ply. So some parts are really thick, some parts are really thin. So you can see there's kind of like a really thick one there and then a really thin one there. That is something that I didn't mind in my Wednesday sweater. So that sweater I used Noro Silk Garden Solo in their colorway 1 Omitama. That colorway is also available in the Sock Solo line as well. I do have a skein here left over from that project, and this also has that kind of thick and thin look. But for that particular sweater, I really was not interested in holding any kind of mohair or alpaca strand with it because it's a turtleneck. I was worried about it being just too warm. It doesn't really get, you know, super cold here in Vancouver, so I didn't want to knit up a sweater that I was going to hardly wear. And you know, I'm just imagining that kind of turtleneck with a mohair or alpaca strand. I feel like it would need to be below 0 degrees for me to actually wear that comfortably without overheating. And it doesn't often get below 0 here in Vancouver unless we've got some Arctic winds coming through. So for the Wednesday sweater, I am really glad that I stuck with just holding this on its own. But for this cardigan, because it is a cardigan that can be opened up and it's, you know, V-neck is probably how I'm going to go with this cardigan. There's, you know, more air to cool off my body. So I'm not, you know, very worried about overheating. And in fact, I want this to have some warmth so that I could wear this cardigan on its own without a spring jacket over top. Another reason why I wanted to avoid the drop shoulder construction with this yarn is to reduce kind of pooling or color pooling. So it's not a deal breaker. It happened a little bit in my Wednesday sweater, and that's just because of the back and forth construction to make that sweater. By choosing a top-down raglan, there's going to be more stitches distributed around and, you know, incorporated into the sleeve, so it's going to hopefully reduce that. But I don't know if that's even an issue with the Madara yarn, whether it has the same kind of coloring like Omitama. Because if you look at this yarn, it looks pretty consistently kind of gray beige, and it's more like, I think it behaves more like a tweed yarn or a speckled yarn, for example, where in the Omitama, it's very clearly purple in areas, yellow and blue. So yeah, so that's not, you know, a big factor of why I'm not going with drop shoulder, but it was something to consider. So extra thoughts on that yarn and this project. you know, I really love looking at this yarn. I love the color. I've seen other people knit it up and it looks great. My worry about this one is, will this color age well? Will I still like this, you know, in 2 years from now, 5 years from now? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Has this colorway, this line, been out for a long time? If you're watching this and you have a Madara sweater in the color sake from like years ago, let me know. Do you still like it? Does it still go with things in your wardrobe? Do you still wear it? Okay guys, that is the bit of stash I wanted to share and the 3 projects I hope to finish by the end of this winter. I know that's ambitious. Today is February 14th. To finish by April was kind of my goal, but I'm thinking like that's only 6 weeks from now. Although I feel like the Eclair Pullover is something that could be done quite quickly. It's not a large garment. It's top-down raglan construction, although because of the slits, I'm gonna have to work back and forth, which not my favorite, but you know, you can't make, well, you can. I could cut steaks, but no, I don't want to do that. Yeah, let me know. Do you agree with the projects I've chosen for this yarn? Only the Friday tee is really completely set in stone. I haven't purchased the Eclair Pullover pattern yet, have not purchased the Champagne Cardigan pattern yet, so I could easily change my mind tomorrow. But I hopefully won't, because I've done a lot of thinking, considerations with this yarn, and I don't want to be, you know, influenced by what comes out on Instagram tomorrow, because that is something I am trying to avoid this year. As beautiful, as great as the new patterns that are coming out, I need to kind of slow down, be less impulsive, and think about whether it's going to fit in my wardrobe first, and also let's use up some of my stash and get some more space in my locker before I tackle any kind of new patterns. Unless I've got yarn in my locker that I haven't queued up for anything, then I will buy a new pattern. But yeah, see, I'm already convincing myself to spend money, guys. I need some help. Okay, guys, that is it for today. Thank you for hanging out with me and letting me kind of throw it out to the world, you know, my plans, my goals. Hold me accountable for, you know, what I've lined up for myself to do. And until next time, guys, happy knitting. Bye.